Hotep family, Grand Rising. We say Grand Rising as opposed to hello or good morning because we speak to the spirit and the soul. Yeah, we waking you up on all levels. And today, I'm honored to bring you my favorite psychologist. I'm gonna have to say my favorite male psychologist because I love Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, but they're both on the same page. But he is my favorite teacher. I feel that I've learned so much more in depth with him than anyone else. However, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing really hit it on the nail, and it really supports what Dr. Neely Fuller as well as Dr. Amos Wilson says. So, without further ado, let's jump into this book that I've been waiting to get a very, very long time. Welcome to Readers Are Leaders. I'm sorry I've had you waiting for so long, but please subscribe, hit the notification button so that you can get all of the updates when we come online, as well as comment, share, like, subscribe. I know I said that and I'm repeating myself, but again, it's been a while, so I got to knock some of the dust off, But let's get into it because I don't have enough time, and this will be part one. Blueprint for Black Power by the great Dr. Amos Wilson. African life into the coming millennia is imperiled by white and Asian power. True power must nest in the ownership of the real estate wherever African people dwell. Economic destiny determines biological destiny. Blueprint for Black Power details a master plan for the power revolution necessary for Black survival in the 21st century. And therefore today. White treatment of African Americans, despite a myriad of theories explaining white behavior, ultimately rests on the fact that they can. They possess the power to do so. Such a power differential must be neutralized if Blacks are to prosper in the 21st century and beyond. African Americans earn a take-home salary of near $500 billion yearly, not to mention the trillions they generate. Yet they retain only 5% of this income. Viewed as a nation, their economy would be the 8th or 9th largest in the world. Africans in America possess enormous potential to amass effectual social, political, and economic power, and thus control their destiny and secure their liberation. Professor Wilson argues that were the African American community to see itself as indeed a de facto nation, then its scourges of poverty, disemployment, crime, miseducation, wanton consumerism, alienated/deficit spending, misleadership, and powerlessness will be drastically reduced, if not eliminated. Blueprint posits that an African American, Caribbean, Pan-African bloc will be most potent for the generation and delivery of Black power in the United States and the world to counter white and Asian power networks. Wilson frames this imperative by deconstructing the U.S. elite power structure of government, political parties, think tanks, corporations, foundations, media, lobbyists, interest groups, banking, and foreign investment particulars. Potentially, strong Black institutions as the church, media, and think tanks, industry, collectives such as investment clubs and credit unions, rotating credit associations such as African Originated ESUSU, Tontine, TONTINE, and partner are analyzed. Pan-Africanism, Black nationalism, ethnocentrism, and reparations are assessed. Often misused and underused financial institutions as securities, mutual funds, stocks. It's very small, that's why it's difficult to read. Underwriting and incubators advocated, thus elucidating oft-negated opportunities for economic empowerment. Blueprint delegitimates white power and roundly critiques the Black psychopathic, bourgeois, religious, and political leadership establishments for the historic moralizing of Black socioeconomic conditions and programmatic ineptitude. Wilson warns the consequences of Black obsolescence, biological annihilation. Aptly titled Blueprint for Black Power, stops not at critique, but prescribes radical, practical theories, frameworks, and approaches for true power. It gives a biting look into Black potentiality. This 900-page treatise is a journey into the protracted. I'm going to stop there because I have some things to do, and I don't want to get caught up. Let me see if I can read one more page. All right, let me just read the acknowledgements and then I'll end. Dedication. Those who will transform destiny must first will to transform history. I'll repeat that. The dedication states, those who will to transform destiny must will to transform history. Acknowledgements. A work of this magnitude cannot be accomplished without the blessings and contributions of noteworthy and trusted friends and associates from both near and afar. Our heartfelt appreciation to one and all. However, there are some whose mention must specially be noted. Gratitude to Lorenzo Tyson, Ralph King, Franklin Joseph, Ivor Alleyne, I don't know how to pronounce that, Alleyne, and Andre Gray for unequivocal and unwavering support, diverse participation and economic undergirding in publishing this opus. My indebtedness to Adisa Makalini for typing and editing this manuscript and being ever present in all times of need. Kwaku Orande, Kwakuoronde, those revolutionary fervor fired this attempt. Joseph Gillians, graphic artist, able friend and thinker. Worthy of special adulation are Osetutu Yerubanda, Aramintha Grant, Linda Milner, Gerald Joshua, Andre Deputy, Kabari Jordan, and Nzinga Nosakehene, Nosakhene. Any name that I pronounced or mispronounced, please grab the book so that you can also read it and you can tell me where I'm wrong. And remember, during Readers Are Leaders, it's not about being perfect. It's about striving for perfection. So that which I don't know, I will learn. But again, I have to confront it first, right? Trying to see where I was at. For commenting, critiquing, and proofing the manuscript. Staff members extraordinaire Dorothy Lewis and Nakua S. Colbreth, volunteers Tara Edwards, Karen Campbell, Isha Tafara, Lolita Lopez, Leah Mullen, Melanie Scott, friends Dejed Wade, Tabu Jata, and Robert Dobson. Without you all, this task would still be in gestation. Appreciation to Rosa Plata for her serene understanding and total support in the protracted nature of these endeavors. To Sankofa Plata for the many moments missed in your flowering. Special thanks to Judith Jeffrey for your years of companionship and warmth. One will be remiss to not laud Dr. Janice Montague, Montague, whose African-centered diligence held ajar local academic doors. Special thanks to the Wilson extended family for the credence necessary to complete this work. To the many others worthy of mention, you too occupy a revered space in our hearts. Thanks for the many concerns, pridings, reassurances, finances, trust, patience, and graciousness, efforts, however seemingly small, but which serve to weave the tapestry of this epic volume. May this blueprint be of assistance to you in your life travails. We thank you for allowing us into your consciousness. Unstilled. We have some of our people who think that slavery was back then and has nothing to do with them. We have never escaped slavery. We still share the slave consciousness of our great-great-grandparents. You say slavery has nothing to do with you and slavery was back there. I ask you then, what language do you speak? When did you learn that language? Was that the language African people were speaking when taken into slavery in the Caribbean and in the Americas? The language we speak at this moment is the slave language, the language that our slave ancestors were forced to learn. We still speak it and you can still hear it in the Pidgin, the Creole, and other carryovers in our language right at this moment. The experience they had to go through. That language, with its words defined by history and by an experience, is the language we use to guide our behavior. It's the language we use today to talk to ourselves. It's the language we use today to learn about ourselves and to learn about the world. It's the language we use today to understand ourselves. Is there any wonder that we are still confused? What kind of food do you eat? You say soul food. Was that the food of African people? Slave food? The food that we find most satisfying? The food that we find sticks to our ribs? The food we call down home? The food we learn to eat in the slave quarters, and yet we dare say we have escaped slavery? How can you say that you exist in another consciousness from those people? What kind of clothes are you wearing? Were these clothes of African people? What kind of names do we respond to? Tamika and all of those other names we've got going on out here. What kind of names do we identify with? Why is it that African names sound strange to us, and yet we dare say we have a different consciousness from our slave great-grandparents? We are still of the same consciousness. We are still in the same position, still servants. Our reason for being in America is to serve white folk and to generate wealth for them. Ultimately, I ask the question that's closest to home. What kind of God do you worship? What's the name of it? Who taught you to praise him? Was this the God you were praying before you were brought to these shores? Is this the religion you had before you were brought to these shores? Can you name one African God? How can you then define yourself? The very essence of yourself, the very essence of your soul, and organize the very nature of your life here on earth based on a God handed to us by our slave masters, and then claim that you have no slave consciousness and not related to slavery. In other words, we are not Africans. We are possessed. Amos Wilson, 1994. Stay tuned. We coming back for part 2. Oh, man, my favorite. I hope your today is great and your tomorrow is greater. Join us later on for part 2. Hotep family.